You ready?
Yeah.
Oh, it's cord. Is it there?
It's yellow. Gotta get my sweet torch ready.
Are you ready?
You keep messing with it.
Because it keeps moving.
It was fine.
Oh my God. It's going to be a good outtake. Welcome back to another Modified Rides podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Burrell. And for those of you guys on YouTube, it's obvious I'm in a different situation right now. I'm not in the office. I don't have the same kind of interview style. Today, I'm actually recording on the way to Triple Crown of Rodding in Nashville, Tennessee. And I have someone with me who has literally since day one begged to be on the podcast every time. Well, how come I can't be on? How come I can't be on? So it's time for her to be on. So today I have my wife, Kristin, on.
Hello.
So
Hello.
okay.
Is it really true that I begged you though?
A lot.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Think so.
So who are you?
My name is Kristin.
Okay. That's it. Thanks you guys for listening. The podcast is, no, I'm just kidding. So, she's been involved for a while with all the shenanigans that I do with the car stuff. So it's normal if I have her on, I'd say. I don't know if she's normal, but
Thanks.
But I figured it was a good time to test out this new platform. Like I said, while we're driving, hopefully the video comes out good for you guys. She's been around for 12 years now.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Wow.
That's so long. So long. Anyway, she's followed me through all my shenanigans, all the different SEMA builds, the photo shoot stuff. So I kind of want to get her perspective on what her views were on what I do and how I do the photo shoots and my builds and everything. And she's already spilling candy in the truck here.
I haven't.
That-
They're still sealed.
Oh,
They're still sealed.
okay. Well, we'll go ahead and take that back. We'll go ahead and jump into that. We were going to LST in Texas, and Chris Tryon can vouch for this. She spilled sweet tarts all in the back seat. She said, it wasn't me, yet she was the only one eating sweet tarts and the only one in the back seat for the entire 16-hour drive. But it wasn't her that dropped the sweet tarts. So it's become a running joke now that when we go on road trips, she has to get a thing of sweet tarts.
Just so everybody knows, they are still sealed. There are no sweet tarts in this truck yet.
Yeah, there will be. There will be. So let's go back to where I first met her. You know, I'm a little bit older than her. She might have been in elementary school when I met her.
That's a false statement.
Well, when I was a senior, she was in first grade. And the cool part about that was she was a senior. My daughter was in first grade. So I always joke that they watched the same cartoons growing up.
We did not.
Yeah, you did.
No,
SpongeBob?
I don't like SpongeBob.
Okay.
I didn't watch SpongeBob.
Yeah, well, anyway.
We just know he lives under the sea.
So I met her. One day my phone broke. She works, sells cell phones. I went in and just started talking trash. And, while I was buying the cell phone, I'm like, oh, it's cute blonde. Let me see what, if I can flirt a little bit. And what did you ask me while I was in there?
We were joking.
Uh-huh. What did you ask?
I was getting ready to take a trip with a bunch of my friends.
Uh-huh.
And I said, yo, you want to come along?
Yeah, the first day I met her, she asked me to go to Puerto Rico with her and her friends.
Shenanigans.
So I turned her down. I said, I'm not interested. But
all right, we're going to skip past that.
but 2 months later, May, June, July, yeah, 2 months.
You asked me on our property.
Oh yeah, 2 months later. So become friends with her when I got my new phone, just kept flirting with her or whatever. I'm gonna keep adjusting this camera. So you guys on YouTube, this may not be the most stable setup, but you'll be all right. The audio guys will understand on the people listen to it on audio. Well, 2 months later, I was on my way home from work, and she had posted on Facebook that her and a couple of her buddies were out riding motorcycles, and she had a Gixxer 750, and they posted a picture. I'm like, oh, 3 black bikes. Well, then I'm going home, and I passed 3 black bikes pulling out of a restaurant, and I see this tattoo on his thigh, and I'm like, okay, that's got to be a chick. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's Kristin. So I
cool.
I text her, And, of course, she's wearing shorts, but she never really wore shorts. She
No,
said,
no, let me stop you right there. I never wore shorts. I only wore shorts on that. That's like the only time I ever wore shorts. But it's because we just left a pool, and I was like, oh, we're just going literally right down the road to get some food. I'm going to pop on these shorts.
Yeah.
I think that's the only time I've ever worn shorts on a bike, to be honest.
Well, I texted her and said, hey, was that you I just passed? And she said, yeah. And I'm like, I didn't know you had that tattoo on your thigh. That's kind of cool. You want to go on a date?
So there's that.
So
there's that.
Yeah, so then we wind up on a date. A couple weeks later, I wound up moving into my apartment, moved out of my buddy's house where I was his roommate, moved into my own apartment. And she stayed with me that first night and never really left.
Thanks.
Well, I mean, you're still here.
That's true. That is true.
12 years later, you're still
That's
here.
True. That is true.
She loved me that much is what it was from day
That's
one.
what it was.
So we'll fast forward a little bit. We dated a little bit, and then when she officially moved in, all jokes aside, when she officially moved in, I was going through some of her, photo albums and stuff, and we got, talking, and she was into cars back in high school. So her senior project was putting a body kit on your Civic?
That's right.
And what year Civic?
2001.
So she had the carbon fiber hood and the carbon fiber fenders and all that stuff, and did the body kit. And I was looking through, actually saw her senior project, and was like, "Oh, that's Mike Hensley." And she's like, "Well, how do you know Mike?" And I'm like, "Well, we go way back with car shows and stuff." And then started looking through some of her pictures, and she was at Nope's show in Bristol, where I was covering the event. I think I had my Protege 5 back then. And I was like, wait a minute, some of these pictures look familiar. I went on my website, pulled up. I'm like, oh, yeah, there's pictures that I took of the car during the burnout contest. She was in the stands at Bristol taking pictures of the burnout contest, and I'm in a handful of her pictures. Never knew who she was, but at the time, she was freshly out of high school, and I was old.
I graduated out of high school.
Oh, yeah, so 05. Yeah, so she was fresh out of high school, and I would, at that point was 30... No.
You were in your late 20s.
Well, when we met, I was 36. So you were,
yeah.
So it seems like her love for cars actually goes back, even further. So I'll do like I ask all my guests, how did you get into modified vehicles?
So this is probably going to be comical for a lot of people. So I did the Patton Avenue thing. So for those of you, I'm sure, who've listened to this a million times, Brandon's talked about cruising Patton Avenue. Well, that was a thing back in high school. I'd cruise Patton Avenue with my friends, at the time. Of course, that was right around the time Fast and Furious came out. So for all you car people who, it's either you love it or you hate it. But it did spark an interest. The people I hung out with, had some, modified rides. And I was like, ooh, senior project was coming up. Didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I didn't want to do something typical. Really wasn't something that I didn't have a topic of interest that of like sports or doing something that was like, oh, let's do this or that. So I ended up doing the body kit on the car, partnering with the body shop, at the time.
But you already had the car. Did you already have stuff done to it?
Yes, I had already done like, basic things, wheels, exhaust, stuff like that.
Where did you figure out that was what you wanted to do? Did you have other friends that already had that? Was it a boyfriend at the time that said, hey, let's put these parts on here?
Yeah, so the guy I dated all through high school, he had an Accord that, had wheels, exhaust, changed out some, tail lights, just, basic things that were done to the vehicle. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, that sounds fun. Let's, let me do that. And I always joked and said, while my friends were at the lake and hanging out, I was always in the garage with some of the guys hanging out. While they were building vehicles or, just tinkering on stuff. So I can literally say I've been in a garage since I was probably 16 years old, hanging out with the guys, doing stuff, because it was fun. I had more of an interest in that than I had in, going and doing some other things. So no partying at that, stage. I was just literally hanging out in garages.
But you didn't have, of course, I know the answers to all these, but I'm trying to get it to listeners. You didn't grow up with cars. No one in your family you didn't have that car guy uncle. You didn't.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I do not come from any family of vehicles, or, you know, I don't have, you know, like someone who's like, oh, I'm going to go tinker in their garage or hang out with them or go to a car show. It was literally introduced to me when I was 15, 16 years old in high school with the people that I was hanging out with. And I'm sure we'll get into this to a minute. So for, you know, a while, that Nopi show, I actually won Nopi Chick Custom. That was my first.
Spit it out.
Thank you. Thanks. That was rude. You know, trophy that I got, but it was more of, I love the environment. I love the culture. I loved being able to travel and go places. And it kind of just spiraled from there. Once I went to that show, we ended up going to Nopi every, you know, for the next couple of years. And then we ended up, I had a custom, and my trunk was completely done with, you know, some subs and amps. And,
Oh, fiberglass tin.
yeah.
I've seen pictures of it, but it's been long gone before I met her.
Oh, yeah. You know what's funny? Someone sent me that vehicle, a picture of that about 10 years ago. I was shocked it made it that long. But
Why did you get rid of it?
so at that time, I had the car, you know, for several years, and I.
You say several years, you mean like 2?
No, I had it for like 4.
Which is long for you to own
That
a
was
vehicle.
a long time, even for me then, because my first car only kept for like a year and a half. So, anyways,
Sold it?
Yeah, because I didn't. It was a '95 Toyota Corolla.
No, your Civic.
Oh yeah, but my first car was a '95 Toyota Corolla, and I didn't think that you could really modify it well. So I said, "Mom, I don't want this."
Our friend Sal would beg to differ with his Corolla.
Well, sure, but at the time I didn't. I was like, no, and my mom's like, "Well, I'll help provide you for your first car, but after that, it's on you." So here I am making great financial decisions at 18, saying, let me go buy another car because I wanted to do something that I can customize and modify. So yes, kept the Civic for about 4 years, and then I ended up wanting something. It was a 2-door Civic. I ended up just wanting something that was a little bit bigger because I was going to school and I just wanted something different. At the time, I had 2 dogs, so I ended up buying a TLX. No, a TL. Sorry, the TLX.
Yeah, before the TLX.
Yeah, before they came out. Had that for several years, and then ended up wanting to. I got into an Infinity at that point in time. Okay, you gotta get that. You gotta cut this part out. That doesn't make any sense.
No, that's typical you. The people, my friends that know you, is going to be like, "Yep, that's Kristin." Anyway, go ahead. So you got the TL,
so I got the
and
TL.
you wrecked it.
No, I didn't wreck that one.
You didn't wreck the TL?
Well, I did when someone T-boned.
See?
Well, I T-boned
See?
somebody because they pulled out in front of me, but it
Exactly.
didn't total it. I kept it.
She still wrecked it.
Because someone pulled out in front of me. All right, so we're moving on. So then, in that time of me selling the Civic and getting the TL, I got into motorcycles. So I kind of
Change courses.
yes, and went into motorcycles. The guy I was dating at the time was into bikes, and I was like, it was still motors. It was still something to do
Yeah.
with wheels, and so I got a Gixxer 600. That relationship ended, and that bike was actually stolen. I lived in an apartment complex, and it was stolen. So I was like, all right, I want to hang it up for a minute. But then I was like, I really missed riding. I really missed that whole environment.
Yeah.
I like the adrenaline rush. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I just was like, let me go buy another one. So
Adrenaline junkie, but your favorite pastime is sleeping.
that's what you think my favorite pastime is, but it's not. So
Anyway.
I ended up getting another bike at the time, which was a Gixxer 750. I had moved, across town.
And you legally had your license and all that stuff.
Well, technically it's a permit, but yeah, sure. We can.
Those are only good for like a year.
I just kept renewing the permit. It was fine. Because I never really took a passenger. It wasn't necessary for me to have a full
Endorsement.
full endorsement for that. So I went and got a Gixxer 750. It was a 2011. It was all black. Absolutely loved that. Put exhaust on it. Nothing crazy. But Brendan always likes to joke and say, because that was the bike I had when he met me, was that I refused to lower it, which is a true statement. Because once you get going, it doesn't matter, right?
Well, she's
Just keep
5
going.
foot nothing, so she ballerinas every time she'd stop. I actually have pictures of her, both toes just bouncing at a red light trying to touch because she's so short.
That's fine. I made it just fine. Really got into that. Really enjoyed riding. It was like my escape from all the things, work, life. Group of us would always go. Sundays were usually the riding days, and we would just ride all day. We'd leave at 8 a.m., get back at 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, start for lunch, dinner. It was essentially my whole identity at the time. That was what I loved. Brandon and I got together. I ended up, at the time, there's a lot of people kind of going separate ways. We were all starting to get in our mid-20s, which is not old in any capacity. But, people were getting married, having children, kind of like doing different things, people getting into their full-time careers. And so just that time of everybody being able to commit, 10, 12 hours to ride or a couple hours in the afternoon was just not as feasible as it once was when you're in school or graduating school. You had less free time.
Same thing happened, with me, with all the, the custom vehicle stuff. Same thing. We all got to that age. People were having kids and families and careers and stuff. So it's just part of the circle of life. Absolutely.
So I ended up, one of my friends who I used to ride with all the time, she helped, we took the bike to Anderson, South Carolina, and we put it on consignment at a local shop, and she helped me sell it and kind of move on from that.
And just to be clear, I did not say she had to sell it. I didn't stop her from riding. She's the one that decided that she's like, I just don't have time for this anymore.
It's probably good for my safety as well at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
I'm all kinds of messing up the camera. Sorry, guys. If you on YouTube, and you don't want to see just me. Okay. This thing keeps moving while we're driving, so I'm trying to. Okay.
So, in Asheville, where we live, the population's grown tremendously. I mean, the population's probably grown in a lot of these areas, like crazy. And it just really wasn't feasible. And I feel like with safety for me to just get on it, ride
by yourself.
By myself, right? So I said, maybe this is the best thing that I kind of just hang this up, and if I explore it later in life, I do. If I don't, well then, it was a great chapter of my life, and we'll move on from there. So I ended up wanting another car because at this point in time, I've had the TL for probably about 4 years. It was about time for me to get another car, which 4 years is apparently my
cap,
and I'm like ready to move on. So I ended up buying I want to say it was a 2005 Mercedes C230. Brandon makes fun of me because I really didn't truly research anything. I just kind of went and bought it. We're going to leave that there. I ended up getting this Mercedes C230. It was a very short-lived investment.
You got that right after our first date, didn't you?
Yes, because our first date I took the TL too.
Yeah. So she shows up, I was at Pepsi at the time, and she shows up with this car on her way to work. There's fries in the back floorboard that the dealership didn't clean out. They didn't even wash it. She just said, oh, it's a cool car, I'm gonna buy it. Zero help in making sure things were right back then.
Well, what had happened was things happened. So anyways, it's a very short-lived investment because I ended up totaling it 6 months after I bought it.
Was it 6 months?
Yeah, because I bought it over the summer and it was totaled in December.
Yeah.
Maybe 5.
So she leaves my apartment. She's on her way to work, and like 5 minutes later, she calls, and I'm like, oh, she misses me. Nope. She goes, hey, can you come get me? I just wrecked the car. I'm like, you literally just pulled out of the apartment complex. What are you doing? She goes, oh, I'm sitting backwards against the guardrail. I'm like, where? She goes, I just got on the interstate. And keep in mind, I lived half a mile from the interstate. So she's not even a half a mile from the apartment, and she's wrecked the car. But it was raining, and
someone tried to cut over in front of me, and to be honest, I was merging, so obviously I'm accelerating to get on the interstate, and somebody was moving from the left-hand lane into the right-hand lane, and I had to hit my brakes so I wouldn't hit them merging. And anyways, when I hit my brakes, I hydroplaned.
So that goes back to this. She didn't have someone look over the car before she bought it. The tires were bald. They were as slick as the hood. And I didn't realize that until after she wrecked. So I had to go get it, drive it to the body shop, and of course it was totaled. So
But
she
you
has.
did the same body shop that I did the body kit with.
Was Mike still there at the time? Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, Mike was still there. So Mike Hensley was still at the body shop that she did her senior project at.
Yeah.
So of course that was a good chuckle moment amongst friends. But
Was it a chuckle moment?
it was for me.
Was it?
Well then he
But
called.
But what did the car say? The tail light was out.
Yes,
the whole way
the
together?
tail light bulb was out. Yeah, the tail light's laying on the side of the interstate. Of course the tail light's out. At least Mercedes lets you know that.
I will say, Mercedes was an incredibly. It was a good car. If you're going to be in a wreck, it felt like a little bumper car when you total it and it does a 360 and you hit the front end and the rear end on the guardrail. That was a win, I guess.
Yeah.
I walked away from it and nobody else was in the wreck. So good news is nobody was hurt except the car.
Watching the camera here, so you guys that are doing this on YouTube, bear with this because every time I go around a curve, the gimbal wants to move from left to right. So just let that slide and just listen to what we're talking about. So she has a rental car for a couple of weeks, and then she hadn't found a car yet. So she borrows her grandmother's car. That grandmother's in late
It's in
80s.
the
Late 80s. Never really drove her car. It was just kind of there. She had it forever and Accord. Well, a week or two after borrowing Mama's car, she totals that one as well.
A little bit of a bad stint.
So for you guys that know, when I say I'll worry about her driving, that's 2 vehicles she totaled in like 2 weeks. Yeah.
That was a little rough.
Yeah. So
now it's not funny, but the road I totaled that on, I drive every day. And I think I have a flashback. Every time I pass that intersection, essentially somebody slammed on brakes and did a U-turn in the middle of a road that you should not be doing U-turns on.
5-lane road, just turn a lane in the middle.
Anyways, I ended up then getting a Infiniti G37S. And we eventually just, obviously blacked it out. I got numerous.
I almost tried to talk her out of that because the front bumper had a lot of road rash just from, low cars like that. They get everything off the road, rocks and debris. It was fun, but I was like, I don't know, need a lot of work. Not a lot of work, but it was just needed some paint help. But it was
fun.
Did we want to blower in that one?
No, we just put it on wheels and then blacked the windows that I got pulled over, I feel like, every other day for.
Yeah, she got like 3 tinted window tickets, but it was 5%, like 35 on the windshield on a black car.
Oh, it looked so good.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so it ended up, Brandon, of course, you guys all know his story. He did Decade, he did Dark Earth.
Hold on, we're not to that yet.
Yes, we are.
No.
Because we traded in that vehicle.
No.
Okay.
So I want to go.
Rewind.
Rewind. If these trucks don't run us off the road here. So I want to go back. So when I first walked into your store, before you asked me to go to Puerto Rico with you and your friends, how did you know that I was who you wanted to date? That's the whole big question of this.
To this?
Yeah, because we need to. Because we need to.
I think at that time, I was just having fun, I was in my early 20s at the time. Yeah, 24, 25.
Yeah, 25.
And I think
she thought I was in like
I thought
late 20s.
The great thing about him is that he does not look as old as he is. So that's beautiful.
My back would tell you a different story, but
okay. So anyways, once we started to get to know each other, we realized that we have a lot of mutual friends.
A lot.
One of those individuals that we had both knew before we started dating was Chris Tryon. Chris used to ride a lot of motorcycles. He had a lot of mutual friends, and so of course, being in the bike community in our area, people just like the car community. People, and I know that was one. I also will just say one of Brandon's really good friends growing up was my cheer coach when I used to cheer. I called him William.
He was Bill to me.
But that's how you knew who he was it William or Bill? Who also ended up being one of Serena's, I believe, gymnastics coaches at some point, which is so funny. And then Serena's 3rd grade teacher ended up is actually my sister's best friend. So it was really funny how like it just kind of came.
It's
full
the 6
circle.
degrees of Kevin Bacon deal.
And so we went on a couple days. Brandon, of course, was getting out of his marriage and separated. Let me just be completely transparent. I did not know him when he was married. Okay, all right. Let's just make sure we are crystal clear on that one. So moving on, we hung out. Our second date was actually a backstage. He had to cover the Dub show
In Atlanta.
And Snoop Dogg was the performer at the time, correct?
Yeah.
And
You said correct. Really? Like you don't remember?
Make sure that was that, because that was also when I met Debo.
That she did not know who Debo was.
Had
never watched Friday.
Never watched Friday. Okay, so that is a true statement.
Kids these days.
Whatever. So going through all that.
No, we'll go back to the Atlanta date. So I guess that was technically our second date. Yeah.
Because our first date we went and had barbecue, which I will say one thing I love about Brandon is that he may seem like he is not sentimental, but this man is sentimental.
Lies.
I say this because we had barbecue at on our first date, and then we ended up having barbecue at our wedding because, of course, we wanted to tie that in together. But the day we met, it's the same day he proposed, 7 years later.
I was about to say, no, it wasn't the day we met. Date. Same date, not day. Okay.
Yes. Well, day, date. Okay, fine. And then it's also our anniversary date because we got married on that day a year later. Well,
so you skipped off the Dub Show deal. So our technical second date, I had to cover the Dub Show for Dub Magazine in Atlanta. Snoop was on stage, B.O.B., and of course me covering the show, I get on stage and all that, and she's backstage. And I joked, I said, regardless if me and you ever have any more dates, no one's ever going to be able to top a second date of you being backstage with Snoop Dogg.
That's true.
Is that when you decided to stay with me, or did you said, I can't do any better? That's what it was, wasn't it? No one can do any better for me.
I mean, maybe.
But she was in the middle of trying to line up to move.
Oh, that was a nightmare.
So she spent half she had
terrible.
worked all day.
That's when I worked third shift.
Oh yeah, she worked third shift, and then we drove to Atlanta, 4 hours away, and then she was trying to do logistics for moving and all that while we were in Atlanta.
I just want to piggyback. I worked a full-time job during the day.
Yeah.
I lived by myself. So, of course, at the time I had my bike, I had my car, I had rent. So I was like, oh my gosh, I got to do something else. So I ended up working third shift at a gym, doing, just front end stuff at the gym, cleaning up the weights, doing all that good stuff. But I was like, yeah, I can go with you. I literally had slept maybe 2-3 hours. The apartment that I had just moved into 10 days before was not going to work out. It was just not going to work out. I had 2 very big dogs. I was on the 3rd floor, and they said they could just hear my dogs walk. Well, I don't know what to tell you when they're 100 pounds. But anyways, I ended up moving, and I had to facilitate essentially this last-minute move.
Help with friends.
Because I had to find somewhere to go, because I was like, I'm not going to lock myself into this lease anyways. The apartment complex was actually very gracious and let me out of the lease, all this good stuff, because I had just moved in. So it worked out, at the time.
But she still put that on hold to go to Atlanta with me.
I still took care of all my responsibilities. I just didn't sleep at all for like 48 hours.
You didn't even sleep on the way there or the way home.
I know.
Which that's changed. So if it wasn't for us recording now, she would probably be asleep. And those that's gone to trips with us would vouch for her. So
I think anybody on your Facebook page would say the amount of pictures you posted me sleeping, or Chris. Really what we should do is have Chris come on and talk about the Kristinisms in the vehicle.
I've tried to get Chris on. So if any of you guys talk to Chris Tryon, tell him he has to come on. He's always so busy now. I need him on. But anyway, so
we should really talk about the Kristinisms. Those that could be a whole separate podcast. That could be a whole different episode.
But if we do that, the listeners are going to think that I'm like trying to take care of a special needs girl.
No, that's not true. Let's just say sometimes when I'm sleeping in a car and I wake up, I'm like, wait, what are we
Or
doing?
when she's walking down the road, or when she's sitting in a chair. She don't have to be asleep for that.
We're just going to bypass this. I'm
Okay.
actually a very smart person.
So you broke down how you got into cars, that you were into cars and the bikes.
Yes.
Then we get together. Like I said, we get the wheels on your Infinity. We do the tent and all that stuff, and we wanted something more. You wanted something bigger, but I guess the whole time you had the Infinity, I did Project Decade, and I did Dark Earth.
And you did Pumpkin Spice.
And we did, no, because that was after the Subaru.
That was in 2015. You started on his.
Well, we were doing tech articles on Chris's
Yeah.
truck, but we didn't.
You didn't build it.
It wasn't a SEMA build at that point.
That's correct.
Yes.
But you were at least, it was starting the doorway
Yeah.
for that.
So I
Yes.
built Project Decade, sold it in Vegas, built
And that
Dark
was in
Earth.
14.
Yeah, in 2014.
15 was Dark Earth.
Did Dark Earth, and then kept it for a year or two, something like that. And at this time, she'd had the vehicle long enough. So how long did you have the Infinity? 4 years? Is that your...
Yeah, it was probably about 3.5, 4 years.
Yeah.
We're hitting that 4-year mark.
So she wanted something bigger than a two-door. Because, a little two-door car, because all the kids she has to lug around and all the supplies, all she has is a cup and a purse. Like, she don't need a lot of room, but she wanted another four-door car. But the stipulation was it had to be a straight drive.
All my cars up until this point, all of them had always been a straight drive.
So if any of
Except
you,
my first one, my Toyota Corolla.
yeah, but if any of you have tried to buy vehicles lately in the last, 10 years, you can't get a straight drive. Like, new Vets don't come in a straight drive. So the only options we had was a WRX, a BMW, like a M3, something like that, some of these sports cars. Well, she's like, well, I kind of like the WRX. Let's look at those. And I was like, hey, I'm not building nothing for SEMA this year in 16. Why don't we buy one and build it for SEMA? And she's like, I don't know. I just want something to drive. I made a few phone calls, sent a few emails, and immediately had a boost spot lined up and parts lined up. So the car she bought just to have a bigger car become a SEMA build.
Old red bottoms.
Yep, red bottoms WRX. We wound up doing quite a bit to it, but most people think that it's all my doings on how it was done, but she had say in how everything of that vehicle's put together, well, for the most part.
Yeah, I definitely vetoed that girl that you wanted.
But you wanted the air ride. You never had air, but had you even been around air ride at that point?
No. I mean, your friends that you know up in
Yeah.
their vehicles at the time. But as far as you and I owning something that had been on air at that time, no. Like, of course, like you had friends. Chris had the
Yeah,
what did he have? That Mazda?
Nissan.
Nissan, yeah. That was on air, being around, photo shoots with people with air, so it wasn't like a new concept to me, but it was new as far as how do you drive something on air? How do you do these things? What do you mean you can't turn when it's like this? Or, whatever the case might be. Very fortunate to be a part of SEMA, 2016, and go, because none of my, when I say my side, none of my friends had ever done something to that capacity. Now, when I say my friends, I mean friends that I had maybe previous to Brandon and I getting together. Obviously, at this point in time, we have a lot of people that are, mutual friends and, such like, stuff like that. So, did that. Loved it. I absolutely thought that Sean at Ultimate Audio crushed that interior and audio. So
And we basically said, this is kind of the look we want. You make it happen. We knew we wanted crazy stereo. And to be clear, though, this was 100% her car. It was in her name. It's what she wanted. I still had Dark Earth at the time. So
yeah,
I still had a
really
vehicle.
Was sad when that one left. I loved that truck.
Well, she had never been to Vegas when we went in 2013. I've told the story of how we joked about doing a SEMA build, then it happened, then another one happened. And it's like, all right, back to back. I wouldn't build another one because I still had Dark Earth. I was doing the trailer and all that stuff. you know, and the Groms, and it's like,
oh, we missed the Grom. We gotta go back to that.
okay. So we said, you know, I want to do another SEMA build, but I don't have capacity to do 2 for me, and she needed the vehicle. So it came about, and it wound up being, you know, super detailed, just like all my other stuff. Went to SEMA 16 for drop stars, or was it TIS at the time? They flip-flopped a few names. No, it was still.
But it was still with the NOS trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was all part of ATD.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm just saying where it was parked in front of.
But before I guess to step back, we mentioned the Groms. Before we started the Subaru, you know, I wanted to build a Grom to match my Dark Earth truck. Well, I had a Madrigal come to the house in his Magnum with the bag trailer and the Grom. You know, he did like an East Coast car show tour for a couple months, and you know, we unloaded it. And I was like, let me ride this bike, you know, this motorcycle around the neighborhood. So cool. I'm like, what is a Honda Grom? He's like, oh, it's a $3,000 motorcycle, super cheap to get into, tons of modifications. Before he even left, I'd already found one at a dealership and was pricing parts, and you know, already snowballed before that. And then me and Chris Trine were at 2 different dealerships in town. One of them had one and the other one had one. And we called each other and said, all right, are we doing this? If we're going to buy them, we're going to buy them together. So he bought one and I bought one. And then, I don't know, how did we talk you into buying one?
I think it's trailer production.
So we bought...
on the way back from LST when the trailer came to me. I distinctly remember this. We were going through Atlanta, coming back through LST, going through Atlanta, and Chris is like, how do you put boats, you know, marine speakers on the trailer and tap into, you know, your stereo? I distinctly remember it, and I was like, oh man, here we go.
Yep. So Chris cost me a little bit of money. I'd already had the trailers, already Rhino line to match the truck,
but snowballed, and then somehow I think it was. There were, you know, you put 2 side by side, so it was yours and Chris's up front.
And there
was still room. And I think I had that itch from having motorcycles previously. And to be completely honest, I hated the Grom. I felt like you could not get out of the way if somebody was coming after you, like, because it's a 125.
Well, me and Chris.
From a 750, it is not. You have to get it out of your head that they're nowhere similar to each other.
Me and Chris went all out, stretched, lowered, custom seats, exhaust, like we did everything. Well, she buys a used bike, so automatically she's already cheaper. And then
I'm thinking more advanced over it.
Yeah, and instead of, like, part of Chris's bike was black, and he knew he was painting his orange to match his Tundra. Well, she got his black parts and then got parts off mine, and I'd already powder coated my stretch and my lowering kit and all that, so I just transferred everything to her. So hers was all black, which at the time matched her Infinity. Well, by doing that, she was out cheaper because she already had used parts, you know, already didn't have to pay for powder coat.
I think my parts it was red one, I believe, that I bought.
Yeah.
Chris painted those. Like, I think we flip-flopped. And Chris took mine.
Yeah, Chris took your panels. Well, then, you know, of course, it rode around for the several months that I had the trailer with all 3 Groms and all that. You know, we did the Dills Gap and stuff. So
and that was fun. That was a fun.
100 miles on a Grom is not the funnest thing. Ask if any of you talk to Chris Tron, ask him what it's like to drive through Gatlinburg with after 100 miles on a Grom. He was looking for the nearest dumpster to throw the bike in because his ass hurt so bad. He was walking the bike through Gatlinburg.
That is true. It was not very.
No. Well, so we had that. So, you know, like I said, so she had the bike. Then, you know, then she did the Subaru. Well, we left the bike black, you know, even though the Subaru was gray with all the red. And we had talks about making it match hers. Well, I guess towards the end of getting her Subaru done for SEMA 2016, I sell the truck, the trailer, and my Grom. So at that point, we sell her Grom. Chris winds up selling his. So we never got to make it match the Subaru. But hers goes to SEMA, you know, and then we come back and she drives it. We hit several shows, you know, and she wins Best Interior, Best Chicks Ride, whatever, at attention to detail. Like, a lot of the shows. Well, the attention to detail is probably still my favorite award of anything I've ever won. Yeah, because like I was the one like made sure these bolts matched this and these brackets were this color, like everything worked, but it was still, you know, her car. Well, she's driving that, enjoying that, and like she would even send me, you know, she'd FaceTime me or whatever, stuck in traffic, and she's got it aired out, cruising through, you know, down the interstate with it all the way out, you know, barely off the ground in traffic, just to have people look. So I think you enjoyed that car more than you admitted.
And I love the rotorforms. Rotorforms, I think, set that car off. That, you know, at the very end. And then, why did we get rid of it?
Well, so we kept it all through 2000. That was 17. Well, then I wanted to do another SEMA build, and it's like, okay, I didn't want to do nothing for me. We had the Subaru. I just sold Dark Earth. At this point, we had done 4 or 5 tech articles on Chris's truck. And I was like, you know, your truck is 3/4 done for SEMA. Let's build yours. Let's take it to SEMA. So it back and forth, lined up a spot, got it going, emailed a few sponsors on the Subaru, and Roadwire was like, hey, we'd love to use it at one of our spots. So in 2017, we took Chris's Tundra, Pumpkin Spice, and actually towed the Subaru to Vegas, which was an epic trip. It was the second time I drove. First time we pulled a trailer. You know, me and Chris went. Of course, she flew out.
I rode back though.
Yeah.
That's when Brody decided to be the tourist in the airport.
Oh yeah. So me and Chris take her car. So Chris's truck was at SEMA for, I guess it was Drop Stars at the time. Like I said, they flipped names between TIS and Drop Stars.
Almost for Roadwire.
Yeah, she went back for Roadwire. But to have 2 vehicles there, you know, at that point I'd had 2 SEMA vehicles for me. Hers had been there twice. So she'd fell in love with the whole SEMA aspect of it. You know, went every year with me. You know, was always the ride or die. You know, made sure everything happened.
I will say, SEMA is like heaven for me because of my degrees in marketing.
All your marketing stuff.
It is like, I love it. It is just like, it's so awesome. Anyways, it's just awesome.
So we do her car twice. You know, we get back from SEMA, but well, she said Freddie doing the tourist. So me and Chris drove out. Well,
Freddie and I couldn't get off work for a amount of time because we wanted to ride back. So,
and that's a long 3 days out, 3 days back. You're in Vegas for 10 days. Most people can't get off work.
Yeah, exactly. So Freddie and I were like, hey, I think Freddie and I both worked that day, worked a half day, did something. We took a late night flight. My mom took us, Freddie and I, to the airport. If Freddie did not go and get a Hawaiian shirt that looked like he was getting ready to go to Hawaii.
And shorts that were the same kind of print, same kind of... I knew about this, but she didn't.
I did not. He walks out of the bathroom from changing from work, and I'm like, Freddie, what is this? He goes, oh, this is my tourist outfit. And I was like, oh gosh. So we literally get to the airport. It's 5 minutes from our house. Easy peasy. My mom drops us off. We get there. I remember distinctly booking this flight that had a decent layover.
Yeah.
So that if anybody ever flies out of Asheville, you know your flight's delayed. It's going to be delayed, especially if you go into Atlanta. So what had happened was we're delayed. Freddie and I are sitting in the airport. People like keep looking at us like...
Yeah, he's straight up looking like he's a tourist out of a movie. The sunglasses, the short shorts, everything.
I cannot. Anyways, so our plane gets delayed. We land in Atlanta, and our plane to Vegas it's like we miss them. One lands, one's taken off. So we go...
Hold on, and to keep in mind, all of their luggage was in Chris's truck on the way to Vegas, so they just had to take a backpack because they were going to be in Vegas that night.
Yeah, so we didn't need clothes.
Yeah.
That didn't work out so well. And so we were flying out on a Monday. SEMA, you know, everybody knows SEMA starts on Tuesday. So they put us in this beautiful hotel.
You said it was ghetto.
It was rough. I was trying to be pleasant. So it was rough. This rough hotel. Freddie and I end up having, walking to dinner. And
in his tourist outfit.
In his tourist outfit, that's all he had. Anyways, I luckily was smart enough to pack like an extra shirt or pair of pants, something in my book bag. We get to Vegas. After it was all said and done, it was only about 12 or 13 hours delayed. It was just the way it was. We get to SEMA, have a great week. We ride back. That was a great trip. We ended up going to the Grand Canyon.
Cadillac
Ranch. Did we do the Petrified Forest again?
No.
I think we did. I'm pretty sure we did.
Yeah.
We did that. It was honestly, that was...
Stopped by Memphis Audio in Memphis.
Yeah, it was honestly a wonderful trip back. Memories that we'll have for the rest of our life.
Freezing to death at Cadillac Ranch.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cold.
We all had shorts because it was hot when we left, but...
Yeah, it was freezing that morning. We get home, SEMA's end of the year, 2018, I believe that it was that summer, spring. What did I sell the Subaru?
I don't even remember.
I don't either. Anyways, I drove our Pilot, also known as the dog car, for about 4 or 5 years. We're on that 4-year saga again, because I really ended up wanting. I had driven the Pilot essentially as my daily.
No, you kept the Subaru until I had the Ram. Because there's a picture of it with the chrome on it, nose to nose.
Which was in 19.
Yeah,
so
which is 19.
19.
Yeah. But meanwhile, she still showed it everywhere. She couldn't go.
You took it.
Yeah,
I work a lot of weekends. So,
and she still swears I did more damage to that car than she did.
Number one, he had his camera case in the back, scratched all my console. That was you. Who also did the offboard, the thing where you went airborne almost, about ripped the front lip off of it.
I put the lip on. I ripped it off. I could put it back on.
It's fine.
That's how that works.
Y'all, it's fine. But I did door ding my own car with the other car. I did do that.
Yep.
Because the Pilot was so old, the door things wouldn't stop, and it just went out and whacked it. And that car, you also did it with the Grom handlebar.
Oh yeah, pushing the Grom in the garage.
Oh well. But
Subarus are not the thickest metal by any means.
Oops, but we got it all fixed. It was fine. We sold it to someone who, it was for their child who was turning 18, graduating high school. Unfortunately, the car was wrecked before a day after they got the title.
29 days after
the sale.
Yeah.
And then they got it fixed, not fixed
correctly.
And then it was also wrecked. I think it's also up for sale now with a salvage title and a blown engine. If anybody's
for 10 grand.
Yeah, if anybody's interested, just know it's out there. So after that, I ended up just driving. I drove the Pilot just as a daily while I had the Subaru. After it's just sold it, and I said, I'm just going to save money, not have a car payment. That lasted for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, I'm ready to pull the trigger. I want a Tahoe.
No, it was an MDX.
No,
I guess
it was a Tahoe.
So
Let's be real. How many Tahoes did I test drive?
Well, we'll step back.
We're going to be.
Hold on. No. Y'all see what I got to deal with? So, in 2014, when my truck was at SEMA, 2 down was a black Tahoe that Extreme Off-Road had built with red Cognito 10-inch lift on it. She fell in love with the lifted Tahoe. So we test drove probably a dozen Tahoes, Yukons, Suburbans, trying to find her one.
And let's just be honest. They were expensive, even with high mileage. Obviously, those are often family vehicles because of the size of them.
Beat all the shit.
And so I was like, I can't justify this. I can't justify spending, at the time, $40,000, $50,000.
Yeah.
And it just be beat up and have 100,000 miles on it. I was like, I just can't justify this. So we kept looking. I was like, maybe I'll go with an MDX. It's not quite the look I want.
I've always been a Honda guy. She's been a Honda Acura person, so it kind of fit.
I was like, hey, well, look, they hold value well, whatever. We went to the dealership, and the one I wanted, it was in the process of purchasing. They're like, oh, well, we have this one. It was not taken care of.
No.
It was not in good condition. So we just happened to walk in the showroom. And what's in the showroom? A pearl white, which is, I wanted something with pearl
white,
something in there. Red interior.
Which, same as the Subaru had.
And it was all-wheel drive, which is something that I was trying to go for because we were getting rid of the Pilot.
we needed something in case it snowed.
Because we do live in the mountains.
Yeah.
Okay. It was a TLX. I test drive it. Well, that's how I acquired that vehicle.
Well, then it didn't last long stock. Then we wound up finding wheels for it. You know, I actually worked with a company that needed some press photos. Got one of their new wheel lines, threw it on it, lowered it, tinted the windows.
It. Also, I backed into another vehicle within 30 days of owning
So she
it.
is not allowed to drive
So
to my buddy's shop at Wheel City because she backed into, actually the guy that lowered the Sierra, she backed into Baird's dually in the parking lot. So I get a phone call, like in tears. I just wrecked my car. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, I was trying to back out of a parking spot and backed into another car. And I'm like, you're in the parking lot. Well, in her defense, I showed up and all the guys come back from lunch and kind of like parked around her and semi-blocked her in, but I still got out. But it literally looked in the mirror, and before she got to that third mirror, she'd already hit the dually. So it's a joke now. She's not allowed back in that parking
I
lot.
just want to be honest. I haven't been in there. I haven't driven there since. I've been there, but I've not driven.
We were actually there this morning, but I was driving, so all the
Everybody was safe in the parking
the
lot.
employees'
Everybody was
vehicles were safe.
So kept that for a long time, and then
In that time, I did the Ram. It went to SEMA twice. Of course, 2020 they didn't have SEMA because of the pandemic and all that stuff. Well, then I did the Sierra. Well, before the Sierra got done, in 21 when my Ram was there for the second time at SEMA, we decided let's do me a lifted Tundra, her a lifted 4Runner. Let's do a matchy, his and her. We were going to do the Lunar Rock, that gray-green color. Like that was the plans for SEMA for 2023. Well, we got back and then it's like, I really don't want to take a loss on two vehicles right now, because vehicle prices were all over the place. So I decided to do the Sierra, do a completely different route.
And just get 30 Mavericks. It was fun.
Well, no, I had two. I had one when I had the wagon.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, well then I needed a daily for the Sierra, even though the Sierra was going to be a daily, because I sold both my Audis. I was like, the Sierra would be the daily. Got back from SEMA, decided it wasn't going to be the daily. I needed something else. Bought a Maverick, found another one 4 days later, bought that one, sold the other one. Like it worked out. Well, I knew I wanted to do something else for SEMA, and she's always wanted a Tahoe, and I'm like, all right, it's time to get rid of your TLX. You've had it for 4 years at this point. So it's like, all right, well, let's go look for a Yukon. We were going to order one. Of course, GM goes on strike. You can't order any SUVs. And we get on Chevy's website, because Yukon, we come to find out you couldn't get the black trim and the diesel. Well, she wanted the diesel like my Sierra, but you couldn't. The only black trim you could get in a Yukon was AT4. You couldn't get the diesel. So we started looking at Tahoes and just did the building process to see what's there and said, 3 in your area that almost matched the thing. She did the pearl white, she did the diesel, a couple options or whatever. Well, they happened to have a sterling metallic in Charlotte that was the diesel, the RST, so it had the black trim. And I'm like, let's just do that and build one that matches my Sierra. Well, we'd already confirmed SEMA 2024 spots for her to build. We didn't know what we were going to do. Was it a Yukon? Was it a Tahoe? Was it a Sequoia? We knew it was going to be a full-size SUV lifted. That's all we knew. So at SEMA 23, we lined up her a spot with the booth. Already had the wheels and tires, already had everything lined up for it before we ever left SEMA. So we find this Tahoe way earlier than I usually pick up SEMA builds. She'd found it, like I said, same color. So we decided to do red interior to match the Sierra, the brushed wheels, and make it that. So she finally got her Tahoe that she wanted.
10 years later.
Exactly 10 years later. But she really wanted a 10, 12-inch lift, something like that. I always joke, so she always asked me for 10 or 12 inches, and I said the only thing I can give her was 4. So, because that's all the lift they make is the 4-inch. She still says she still wants 10 or 12 inches, but she'll be happy and settle for the 4 inches. So it's a win-win for everybody. But they only made...
Because they changed the rear suspension,
yeah,
right?
it went from axle to independent rear, so you can't do the big lifts like you could before. So we're doing the 4-inch with 35, so she's going to have to deal with the 4-inch. Lift.
Inappropriate.
Would I not? Would it be me if I wasn't inappropriate? So, the Tahoe, we took it last week to, which by the time you have this, it'll be a few weeks ago. We took it to Ultimate Audio. And what are they doing at Ultimate Audio?
They are doing all red interior seats.
Not all red, but
Well, no, the seats will be all red.
no, all red is when everything's red, like Jake did the dually.
Okay.
She's still learning terminology.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, doing painting some pieces on the interior, smoking the tail lights, doing the red seats, red sections of the door panel, red sections of the dash
to match this year.
And then we decided not to do audio. There's always an asterisk beside that. You never know what might happen.
This is the first SEMA build I've not had audio in, and of course, Mitchell deals with Memphis and all that, and I've dealt with with Memphis for all my builds, and he's like, let's just wall it off and put 415s. But
it's my daily. I love this vehicle.
Her Stanley Cup takes up a lot of room.
Yeah, that's why her name's Basic Betty.
Yep.
That's why her name's Basic Betty. But really, really fortunate, really happy to be. It's my vehicle, but it's his connections, it's his build, it's his brand writing on it. Happy to always be supported. By those who support him and help him out. It's going to be fun.
Did you ever think when you were building that Civic in high school that you would have 2 SEMA builds, have your vehicles at SEMA for 3 times? Did you even know what SEMA was back then?
No, I didn't. Not in high school. I mean, you got to think.
I knew what it was.
Even though I was younger than you,
A lot.
does not mean that the internet was fully involved and I knew all the things.
I didn't have internet in high school.
Well, at least I had some of it.
I had to marry young. I always say I need someone to change my diapers when I'm older. So I need someone that's still going to be young enough and healthy enough to be able to handle that because I'm old.
Okay, well, I'll be hiring that out. So, a lot of things that I've been able to do. I'm very thankful for, very appreciative of. Worked with some really cool companies along the way. Working on
Couple magazine features.
Also, finally got my photographer badge for SEMA. Pretty stoked about that. But it's really cool to see that. It's cool to meet a lot of the people in the industry. I would love to see. I think there's more and more females getting into different things. There's some really cool.
There's been a lot of female growth involvement with SEMA, I'd say, in the last 4 or 5 years.
Definitely.
Like there's always been the diehard, builders or racers or whatever, but now there seems to be more and more involved.
Definitely. I think it's cool to see that. Unfortunately, sometimes as schedules allow, I don't always, hit as many shows as I was like, or, go to many events.
Which you on YouTube, this might be the first time you've seen her because she don't go to a lot of shows, but.
It's not because I don't want to.
Oh, I know.
So,
It's because I don't want you to.
Okay, that's fair. It's a good thing I must work with some weekends, huh? So, when it goes into that, there's a lot of things that, like I said, I'm fortunate, for. I'll be flying out and then flying back because that's a lot of time off work that we kind of already talked about.
To do a SEMA vehicle, to get it to Vegas, to get it back. I'm literally 2 weeks. Yeah, and live on the East Coast. So I'm leaving Wednesday and we'll be back Tuesday, so right at 2 weeks. 1 day shy of, I guess it is 2 full weeks.
Yeah, so, which is totally understandable.
Everybody can't get off like that.
Which is totally fine. When we look at things like that, so, I'll be flying out, meeting him. He'll be helping that. Really stoked to be a part of SEMA again this year. And, just be around with that, but never in a million years would I say that when I was 16, 17 years old.
Well, when did you learn what SEMA was? After me?
No, I hadn't. You gotta think. I used to, back in the day when it used to be the Speed Channel.
Yeah.
I used to have my friends make fun of me because that's what I'd be watching instead of whatever trash TV was on. I'd be watching the Speed Channel, and that would be. We all got distracted by the car on the road.
Maserati just took off down the road hauling.
I'd watch. That was when Barrett Jackson used to be, the thing.
Started out, yeah.
So I'm going to say it was probably that when I was, how old was I? 18, 19, 20, somewhere around that, when I moved out and, you know, had that, you know, kind of thing. I used to watch motorcycle races, you know, when they used to come on, you know, the TV. But
You said the TV. Like
the
you never
TV.
watch it. The TV.
If anybody wants to know how my life is, Brandon makes fun of me all the time. It's fine.
If I didn't, she would think I didn't love her.
It's true. Sometimes somebody asked me when I went out one time, they were like, he's so mean to you. And I'm like, no, he's joking. If he's not joking, then he's not in a good mood, okay?
And
Stay clear.
you guys that know me, I'm probably one of the biggest jokesters. Like, nothing's ever serious with me. So
But, yeah, now I lost my train of thought.
that's typical. Okay, so we've gone through how you got into it in your builds. So how has your view been going to photo shoots with me? Because that's something that you weren't involved at all until you started dating me. Then
No, that's true.
you'd never been to a photo shoot or nothing. Now you go to quite a few of them. So
Yeah, those are a little bit easier for me to hit than a car show.
So as a bystander, someone that's not having the vehicle shot or doing the shooting, to go to some of these photo shoots, what's your view on that?
So I think it's really cool. I think it's cool because now I've been on, I don't want to say both ends of it, but I've been shot for a magazine, right? So we, you know, you've shot it for stuff.
Yeah.
We've had Brian McGee shoot it.
You weren't there for that at 2 in the
I
morning
was.
when he was shooting it. You,
Oh, no, that's when I was, oh yeah, I was not there for that. I was there for
Yeah.
your Ram.
Yeah, for the Ram.
Yeah. You know, so it's kind of cool, like, to see different aspects of it. You know, even when you were involved in a different level with magazines, I saw it on a different level of connecting with the people, but not. It's just really neat to see the whole thing encompass. Someone who's put their passion, their have the intensity behind it. Hey, I want to do X, Y, Z with my vehicle, and seeing that all the way through, and then seeing it in print, seeing it online in a digital format, because we all know that's where it's moving to. It's really cool seeing, you know, people highlight different people who've had, you know, just influence of these individuals, influence of their builds, you know, what it takes to get there. It doesn't, I want to tell you right now, you don't get a complete build by just walking in and doing your 40 hours a week at work.
No.
This takes years of time, sweat, blood, tears, overtime.
Money.
It is not a cheap hobby in any capacity. But it is really cool just to see everything come into fruition. Going to the photo shoots, you know, sometimes I might be the driver while you're doing the rolling shots. It might be, you know, I always say my job is behind the scene photos. Once I get it, now I know which ones I need to take, and I can get my job done very quickly and efficiently. But, you know, it's meeting the people. It's getting to hear their stories, or seeing their spouses or their friends or their, you know, dads. And just really hearing their stories is really, you know, it's really inspiring when it comes to a lot of different ways.
What would you say your favorite top few photo shoots that you've been to with me that are like, well, that was really cool?
So number one, I would say Cliff Averill's shoot was probably my favorite.
From the Seattle Seahawks for Dub.
Really, I mean, it was at his house. We got to see behind the scenes.
Chris keeps getting brought up in this. Chris tried to get in his pool. And Cliff's like, whoa, what are you doing? Chris is undoing his belt, trying to jump in the pool, grabs his Super Bowl ring, says, how far do you think I can get?
Yeah, not very far.
Yeah, he's like, Cliff, because you realize I chase people down for a living, right?
Yeah, so I think that was a good one. Another one, it was funny. It's one of our first ones we ever went to, but it's when you did TC's bike.
Yeah.
I thought, because you did so many. You did the other bike, you did the Playboy bike that weekend.
Yeah. Caddy.
Yeah, you did the caddy. I mean, you did a lot, but it was one of my first ones that I truly went with you. So I think it was one of those things that it's like I saw a whole different dynamic of those things. So I thought that's one that always stands out to me. Now, if you want to say which one was the hottest, because a lot of these happen somehow in the deep heat of the summer.
Yep.
Daryl's at the Spark Show.
Was Daryl's hotter than Josh and Scott's at the airport?
I was going to say, I think those are neck and neck, because the one we went to in June this year, I literally thought I was melting on that tarmac. But it's really cool too, because we've been in some really like cool like behind the scenes places where
Venues,
you
yeah.
like you can't really just like get to sometimes. A lot of them have happened at airports. You got to think the one in Conroe, across from LST, we've shot there a handful of times.
Yeah. And she always freaks out when the cops show up. She's like, "Oh, we gotta go, we're gonna get in trouble."
Yeah,
and
I
I'm
don't do
like,
well with
"Just the cops are gonna be chill. If they tell us to leave, we'll leave. If not." So she don't want to go to jail.
Yeah, I don't want that. I
I'm
would
used
not
to
do
it.
well there.
I'm used to
I
it.
wouldn't do that where the. I like to follow the rules. Brandon is maybe not so much that way, but when we look at it, I think it's cool. We've traveled a lot. If anybody knows me, knows that I love to travel. I love to see new places, adventure to new things. So it's cool. You get to go to a car show and do stuff. Sometimes someone's like, "So what are you going to do this weekend?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm taking." And me actually right now I'm on vacation to go to Triple Rod.
Triple Crown.
Triple Crown of Ronnie. Jeez Louise, I'll get it right.
Here we go. Like she's still learning industry technology or terminology.
Okay.
So, with you being, I guess, inside but still outside of it, how do you deal with me always recording podcasts and always editing photos and off to shoots? Like, it's not a typical, like, you have a pretty intense job, you're at work a lot, but with me traveling and doing what I do, how do you deal with me always being involved with automobiles?
Well, number one, I don't know you any other different.
Uh-huh.
So if you weren't doing that, I think something was wrong with you, because that's your passion. That's what keeps you sane. But I do think at some point in time, you have to support your spouse and what they enjoy and what they do. If you do not have someone who can support you and help motivate you, then, that's probably not healthy. That's probably not something that you need. You've got to be able to have somebody who supports you. And if that is something that is beneficial to you and you enjoy doing that, then why don't I want to support you?
You're going to support me when I start my OnlyFans, though?
No.
And here I thought she loved me. All this time,
No.
she's just here for the free trips to SEMA.
That's it. No, that's not true, because I paid my way to SEMA, so that's not true. But I do think that having someone who supports you and understands that while my job might not be out of town, my job might not be travel and doing XYZ, he understands that I can't always make it to a shoot, or I can't always make it to a car show. But we both have demanding things that might take us away from each other, but a lot of it is I'm a very type A person when it comes to scheduling and meticulously trying to plan out things. So I try to be as present as possible. But I also understand that, look, this is his job. He can't go with me to my job every day. So, it's something that...
I'd be fired way too fast.
Okay, well, we'll move on from that. So, I think a lot of that goes into, he supports me, I support him, and at the end of the day, we support each other on our passions.
And believe it or not, she actually does listen to the podcasts.
I do.
Even the ones that she's like, well, I don't know who that one was or that what.
I do. He won't let me listen to them, though, until they actually come live. So every Tuesday, I get to find out what fresh information will I learn.
A lot of times I'm shutting the office, she's, in the living room or whatever. So I'm in there recording, and, she'd be like, what'd they say about so-and-so? And I'm like, nope, you're going to have to listen to it.
So I do listen. I stick an AirPod in and listen. But, I think a lot of that, goes back to how do I deal with this, or what do I do? I think it's, knowing that this is your hobby, this is your passion, this is also your income.
I was about to say, it's more than a hobby.
It started off as a hobby.
Yeah.
It's grown into
a long
your
time
job.
ago.
And it's something that, he supports on things that I want to do and that I'm,
It started as a hobby and you were in elementary school.
And what year? No.
94?
Oh, yeah, I was definitely in first grade. So I think it's just one thing that, he understands. I think it's cool that we're both into that. I really don't know where I'd be if we didn't do stuff like that, because I don't know what we would do. I literally think that we would do nothing.
So, being I also detail vehicles, do you clean your own car?
No.
And why?
No. Well, you'd probably say that I have to redo it because you didn't do it good enough, number one. And number two, I don't have time to do that.
But she does point out, she'll send me pictures. This person needs a polish job. Should I give him your business card?
I'm like, yeah, let me carry some.
Or she gets mad if someone puts fingerprints on her car. So I've trained her right.
I get irate about about that. Please do not shut the door by the pillar or by the door frame. Please don't do it.
Put greasy fingerprints
Don't do
on
it.
the
Especially
black.
when you have it's easy to be scratched.
See, she's learned.
Yeah, please don't do that. If you ride in my car, don't do that. But I do think that a lot of it is, just following your passion and your dreams and having fun with it.
Well, can you say what your favorite vehicle I've shot is? Because you've been around for a lot of them for the last 12 years, so you've seen quite a few of them. I would say, which was your... Well, let's step back to this. What's your favorite build that I've done? Was it your Subaru?
No.
What was it?
The favorite build that you've done?
Yeah.
The Tundra.
Over the Ram?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, first off, I'm sure everybody on here knows that I would prefer lifted over lower on some things when it comes to big vehicles.
That's why we're
Now,
lifting the
cars-
Tahoe. She won't let me lower.
Cars clearly should be bagged, right? We know this. We know cars should be bagged, or lowered. But a full-size truck to me, I just love it lifted.
But we're riding in a lowered one right now.
Yeah, it does look good though. But I would say it's probably your Tundra, just the paint matching, the groms, the trailer.
Over the top.
Yeah, it was just fun. It was fun. I loved it. I did not want it to go, but it went to a good home. So, thankful for that. Now, if you just speak about any vehicle that you've owned, it's going to be the RS6. That one, it's funny. I'm not a big fan of wagons.
At all. She did not want me to get a wagon.
I'm not a fan of wagons, but I was a fan of that one. Definitely think that is something that if I ever hit the jackpot, I'm going to scoop up. That was a fun car. Really like the massaging seats. Just a fun little tidbit of information.
I'd still, everything I've done, because that is a bucket list car for not only myself, but for a lot of people. I owned it for a year. It was cool to play with, but at the end of the day, it's just way too expensive of a car just to sit, and I was almost scared to drive it. And
it was so nice.
Yeah.
I love that thing. Favorite vehicle you shot?
Whether you were there at the shoot or not.
I don't know. That's a tough one.
I will bring up the first year that me and her went to SEMA in 2013. I recently, like the year before, had shot the cover for Travis Pastrana. And we were walking out of the nightclub there at Hard Rock for the Dub after party. We got there early and, wasn't crowded yet. I was like, well, let's just go back down, and do the slot machine for a little bit. And we walk out and I was like, that was Travis Pastrana. And she's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah. And I turned around, he's walking the opposite way. And I was just like, Travis. And he turned around, I was like, oh, hey, Brandon, what's going on? And the only thing you remember for that interaction was?
He said I look good.
He's married.
I know. That's fine. I don't see him like that. But come on now, it's Travis Pastrana. Because we were in our little club outfits. Which now I couldn't stay awake to go to a club to save my life. So,
No.
I think, I don't know which favorite one. You know which one I really would truly just love to own is that F100. So you didn't
Jake's speed shop.
Oh my gosh. That one.
All black. Yeah, rest in peace to him. So
that, hands down, if I wanted to own.
So you're saying I need to build an old vehicle now?
I mean, I think that'd be cool, but no, I don't want you to.
She always asks me for an old Caddy or Lincoln or something. I'm like, our garage isn't big enough for that.
Yes, I want an old Caddy so bad.
They're longer than our garages, though.
Well, we'll have to move. I mean, you need more room for your shoes anyways.
Yeah, whatever.
So, and then maybe we can move, have some more land so we can get some more animals. Life will be good. He says no. We all know that eventually I'll win this war. It'll be fine. But I do like to travel, so there is a gamble here and a toss-up of what we like to do. Every year we like to try to go somewhere that we haven't been. Next year, I am, fingers crossed, going to get us to Tokyo so he can see the car culture, do stuff there. So we'll see how that pans out.
Of course, SEMA's always on the to-do list, whether we have a vehicle or not. So
that's correct. We do. Vegas is always near and dear to my heart for a lot of different reasons. But
so how do your friends and your side of the family and co-workers and all that feel about you playing with vehicles? Does anybody understand what you're doing? Like you're dumb for throwing money at it's just a car?
I mean, someone might not think it's a wise investment. I do think at this point in my life, people just know it's a part of who I am. It's a part of my culture. It's a part of who I am as a person. It's you know, I travel, I do things, and it's usually car related.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at least 85% of the time. I do think though, it's something that I enjoy. It's you know, I've said it a million times. You know, it's something I like to do. I like to be around. I think it's fun. I will say though, it is incredibly hard to have a lot of female friends because a lot of female friends don't get it.
Yeah.
It is something that, you know, even if you go shoot, you know, someone's vehicle, a lot of the time their spouse is not into that, or their significant other is not into that. It's rare that you find someone whose spouse enjoys it and wants to go and is, you know, kind of on that same level when it comes to thought process of spending time and money,
Yeah.
you know, and doing things like that. So sometimes it can be hard, but I always used to say, you know, like I said, in high school, I was in garages, you know, hanging out with a bunch of guys, you know, just doing, you know, whatever, watching them, you know, do whatever to their vehicles. So that's all I really know when it comes to a lot of things. But if I'm ever out and about, come say hey. I promise I'm fun to hang out with. You don't think so?
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, glad you guys listened to this.
Oh, wow.
We're going to go ahead and cut this off here. Unless you guys like the banter between me and her, this is probably the last time she'll be on the podcast. Unless.
Wow, I thought we were going to do the Kristinism one.
Me and Chris might have to do that one.
I know I need to be there to moderate it.
No.
Yes.
Well, if you guys like this kind of deal, let me know. If you guys like this road trip, mic'd up, you know, doing the podcast this way on occasion, let me know. Might be something I can do. I know on a lot of times there's trips to shows with friends. You know, we got the Vegas trip coming up that's going to be 32 hours of driving.
I'll be flying.
Yeah.
For that.
So let me know what you think of this little different layout on this, and I guess we'll see you. It's time for her to go to sleep anyway, so we have
I'm good now. Isn't late enough in the day? It's
No,
before 8
we
PM.
still have 3 hours left to drive, and it's
Before
time
8
for her to
PM.
sleep. So we'll
That was
catch you guys on the next episode.